Hey guys, welcome to our series you haven't seen. If you guys have seen our other video, or if you haven't, quick recap of what this is. We love movies, but I think every movie watcher has gaps in their movie viewing history. So like classics or other movies that for some reason you just totally missed. And so this series we go back and we try and catch one of the films that one of us hasn't seen, and we kind of compare how like a rewatch goes, because a lot of these movies are older for the person who has seen it, and for the person who hasn't seen it, what their reaction is to these classics.
So today we're starting off with one that Steven has not seen. The first one we did was for Jaws, and it was because I had not seen it. So we're switching over to one that Steven hasn't seen, and today that is Fox and the Hound, which you would have seen in the title. So this is a classic. Is it Disney?
Yeah, it's totally Disney.
It's a classic Disney movie that's just something I remember a lot from my childhood, and I don't even remember how half these movies end up on our like list to watch, but I mentioned it at some point. She was like, yeah, I've never seen that. I'm like, what? Because it's just, I don't know, it stands out in my childhood brain, so.
And she hyped it a lot going in. She's like, be ready to cry. This movie has all the feels in it. It's so intense. And I was ready for it, and so we sat down and watched it.
So let's start with the first-time viewer opinions first. What did you think?
It was okay.
Fair.
I would say the biggest thing that I noticed is I didn't necessarily feel the Disney magic. And maybe it's because it is an older movie, and sometimes they're hit or miss back then. But if you go back and watch like Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast or one of those, I feel like it has that instant like magic, even if there's some parts
just
that aren't
because
great.
this one didn't have a Disney princess in it.
Even the ones without Disney princesses, I think, have the Disney touch. And I never felt that. Like, this could have, if it wasn't Disney at the beginning and you had told me, oh, this is some little like animation like place that did this one, I would have believed it.
So I agree. This holds up a lot better in my memories from childhood. This was not a good rewatch. It doesn't have that magic. The characters didn't even jive as well as they did in my brain. Like, I still liked some of the characters, but it was that typical like male character who's dejected and like just lonely, and the outsider, and then you have the goofy side characters and the wise parent kind of character, and then you have the love interest and the villain, and that's like the formula.
I think my main problem with it and why I didn't feel that magic is I just didn't get the reasons for a lot of things in the movie, and I feel like if you watch a lot of Disney movies, everything makes sense. It's very cohesive, and this movie did not feel that way. You have a massive time jump in it, I feel like, for one, that they don't really spend time on or why it's significant, and you also have them change, like, main characters or interactions, so like they focus on his bond with the lady, the fox, the whole time, and then she just drops him off in the woods, and then suddenly it's a love story because there's a female fox there. It feels very like disjointed, and like they didn't really commit to one plot. They're trying to hit all the Disney check boxes.
Plus the main like villain in this story, the adult main villain, the neighbor guy, what? It's atrocious. It's written so poorly and so sexist, and I ain't about it.
The fact that the entire time he goes, female.
Yeah, it's not even like, you woman, it's you female, that female, and I'm just like, what?
Which I get they're trying to go with, like, the environment, and he's like a trapper and a hunter, but it was still pretty egregious. I think the craziest part of this movie is he's trying to shoot the fox, and it hops in the lady's car, and he freaking is shooting at her car, like...
To be fair, she gets really mad at him about it.
Really mad. I was like, I want to see him accidentally shoot her and see where this movie goes if that's what happens. But I got really dark. But
I think for some reason in my brain, this like stuck out as more of like a Bambi level story or kind of story to me as a kid, with the like emotional beginning kind of thing and ending, and like the fun side characters that you really connect with, and it just... Maybe I was just thinking of Bambi. I don't know.
Well, it did have a very Bambi opening.
That's true.
But after that, I think is where it fell apart. The side characters were not as lovable. The bird side plot, trying to catch the worm, while kind of entertaining, was not related to the plot in any way, which is why every time they popped in, I was like, I feel like it's just padding the runtime of this movie. I will say the animation does look pretty good, and it's that classic Disney style with the painted backgrounds and all that stuff. And I think this was you said this was the first movie that was computer generated?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
that's
I
what
read
the trivia
something on
said.
that. Yeah, it was the first like digital drawing.
Which I thought that was interesting because it does still hold up and look good.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you who don't know, the premise of the story is basically this fox and this dog who end up becoming unlikely friends and end up forming this bond that stands the test of like going through adolescence and turning into adults and all that jazz. And for some reason, I just thought that that bond was way greater than it was in the movie. It's not that strong in the movie, like, ever. And so they go from, like, tumbling around in the grass, like, having fun, to then, like, epically betraying each other. And you're like, but it's not as epic because you didn't build the foundation quite as well as it needed to be.
If you watch some of our other videos on this channel, you know one thing we hate is insta-love.
Oh, yeah.
Is for
this
romance.
was insta-friendship.
Yeah, and they did insta-love just with friendship. Where,
well, they do insta-love too later.
But then we played like 2-3 times, and then suddenly they're best friends and have an undying loyalty to each other. And then the next scene when he's like, I'm gonna kill you, Fox. Like, you're like, oh, well, I kind of agree with the dog. Like, overall, as a first-time viewer, I feel a little bit let down. I feel like my hopes were really high for this movie. But,
same.
Yeah, it didn't quite reach there. And I know it disappointed you too.
We're like halfway through it. I'm like, oh, this is not working out as well as I thought it was.
But it's good for me to know that I have caught all the Disney classics that mattered, and so this one that slipped through the cracks, it's okay that I missed it.
Well, now you didn't miss it.
Exactly.
Like Steven said in our intro, this is a part of a series. This is our second video in this You Haven't Seen series. So if you have any movie suggestions that you think maybe one of us hasn't seen, and let us know and we'll add it to our list. We already have a pretty extensive list, but most of them are ones I haven't seen. We need more that Steven hasn't seen.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you like this series and like this kind of video, please give us a thumbs up down below. And if you want to see more of our videos, we do have a ton of different types of series and different kinds of videos on this channel. Please subscribe. We would love to have you join our BS Review family. And if you want to see any of those other videos, you can click right over there. And we will see you in our next video. Bye!